Yo, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt,
And I'm Brendan.
and we're the co-founders of Innovate Concepts. And we're at day two at MJ BizCon, and we wanted to give a little bit of a recap, talk about our experience, how we're feeling about the launch of our new product, the Litsaber. Yeah, Brendan, what do you think, man?
Well, it's been a very eventful couple days. I think we've been out on the floor for like 10 hours each day, just like talking to people nonstop, walking around, checking out other people's booths, just interacting, explaining the product, doing our little spiel. I could probably do this in my sleep at this point. It took a minute to get our groove at the beginning of yesterday, but probably midday yesterday we kind of found our rhythm, and I've gotten like a lot more comfortable just like going out and talking to people, starting an interaction, especially like dressed as Obi-Wan Kenobi over here was kind of an experience. But yeah, Matt, why don't you tell about how your experience has been so far?
Yeah, this is my first time coming to a marijuana business convention, so it's been very eye-opening to see all the various different key players and all the value that they're providing at different levels of the supply chain. I mean, seeing everybody from coming from the cultivating side to the processing of the plant to the extraction, to all the different vendors selling different things, different people. It's actually kind of really making sense to me, and seeing all the heavy equipment machinery has been actually pretty cool. There's a lot of really cool tech here and like automation. There's a lot of robotics going on here. There's just a lot of things that I wasn't really aware of, but now that I'm seeing it, it makes a lot of sense of why they're here. So overall, I think it's been very eye-opening for me, learning more about just how the industry creates value from the cannabis plant.
Absolutely. We've definitely learned a lot, especially as a startup company. We're kind of coming into this, trying to launch our first product. So, it's very much a learning process. We've got to meet a lot of cool people, also good connections for us to have in the industry. But we've learned a lot about, what, for example, wholesalers are looking for, just kind of how their business structures work, and how, the kinds of things that we need to do to make it work for them, and hopefully create some deals in the future moving forward. But other than the business side of things, I'd say that we've actually got a lot of really positive response from people who have come by our booth. It was really nice and felt good when we're standing there and someone is like walking by and they pass our booth, and then they like turn their head and look back, and then they like walk back to us. The double take and start talking to us. That was pretty cool.
So people love light up products.
Yeah, it's definitely an attention grabber.
So if you guys ever want to make a product, anything with LEDs tends to be have a positive reception.
Yeah, and that's been nice, and people saying that our product really stands out, that they've never seen anything else like it. And we think that's great. That's exactly what we were going for. So I think we're learning that our brand is very spot on. Even though we've had a lot of really positive feedback and reception to the product overall, I will admit there have been some challenges that we've been learning about. And for example, our industry has very tight margins. So, it's going to be a little challenging to figure out how exactly to distribute this and push it out in a way that makes sense for us and for the wholesalers and everything else. Not to say it can't be done, but we're in a catch-22 in the sense that we're in pre-production still, and so wholesalers, for example, want to have products now, and they don't want to place orders for something that's not going to be available for another couple months.
There's an industry term we use for this situation, actually. It's
called
the hardware valley of death.
The hardware valley of death.
Yes.
Matt, tell us about the hardware valley of death.
Well, that's exactly what you just described it was, right? We're in this catch-22 situation where we need to sell units, right? But we don't have the cost, we don't have the money to actually produce those units yet. But we need to get out there and do pre-orders, and we need to actually launch it on like a platform like Kickstarter or Indiegogo in order to actually be able to fulfill and actually go out and sell to those wholesalers, because they want to see traction. They want to be in production, but to be in production, it's going to cost us a pretty penny, and we don't have that kind of money, but we need to validate demand. So we're in this kind of like weird position where you have the product, the prototype ready to go, it's ready to sell, but you still need to pay for the tooling, you need to pay for the order costs, and that's kind of where we're at right now. And a lot of companies fall in this hardware valley of death where they get to this point and need to sell it, but then now maybe the market wasn't necessarily ready to buy it, and a lot of people ended up actually dying at this point because they don't have the marketing and the sales chops to get out there and find the right deals. So this is kind of the make or break it thing. It's not like you build it, they will come kind of mentality, right? You actually have to be out there hitting the ground and running on boots on the ground.
You build it, they will come, but they won't necessarily like buy, right?
No, I mean, retail companies are good at, like we talked about last night. They're good at capturing the demand, right?
Right.
But it's us as
they're not risk takers. They they don't want to take any risks. They don't want to buy any units and take the risk on themselves. They want to know it can sell. So, part of it is we have to prove to them on our own, like, what this can retail for. And so that we've basically come full circle and back to like needing to fund our own pre-sale. And
well, I mean, that has always been the case.
Right.
I don't think that we've shifted strategy from that. And I think it's always going to be the fact that we need to go out there and validate demand to prove to the market that this is what the retail price can be, because they're going off of what they know and what the industry has been telling them for years now. But we're making something new that's different.
Very different.
And it's a niche market. And typically when you go into a niche market, you can charge higher margins because you're going after something that typically, may be paying for a little higher perceived value on that product. And we're going after like the rave community. And, when you go to a rave or you go to an EDC festival, people spend money on those tickets. They spend money on the costumes, the cosplay. They spend money on the outfits. So
why not have the coolest vape pen in the world out there?
It's not too far to say, that people won't be willing to spend a little extra money on a vape. And it's not like it's something that, you use for a day or a week or a month. I mean, this product will last you a year and a half of usage. So you get good value for the money, in my opinion. But I'm biased. I'm the co-founder.
Yeah. I mean, I think this all comes down to some strategic decision-making on our part. I mean, we do have access to the capital that if we really need it. The problem is, we've gotten this far as just two cousins, like family members, bootstrapping this whole thing from the very beginning over the last 6 years, creating this thing where we haven't had to take any outside money. And so we own it all to ourselves. We can take the capital and give up part of our company, but that just feels, not great to us having come this far and got to where we did, by our own bootstraps. So, we have a lot to think about. If you're out there and trying to do your own company and start your own product, it's definitely doable. It's just going to be a lot of work and a lot of thinking and strategy, and good connections are everything. So,
like you said, man, if it's easy, everyone would do it, right?
If it's easy, yeah, someone would have already done it right now if it was easy.
Well, that's just the entrepreneur journey, right?
Right.
I mean, but you have to be passionate about what you're doing, because there's times where you're going to feel like we are now, where it's like, we got all this positive reception, but, we want to make a sale, and it's like, man,
that's probably the hardest part, or the most frustrating part about it is, even though we've gotten this far, even though we've gotten this great positive reaction, it's still difficult, and it's always going to be difficult.
Well, you're the owner, man. You're the one that's in charge. There's no one else, that can make it happen but you.
True.
So,
overall, though, I think it's been it's been a cool experience. I'm glad we got to come out here and, show people. I really enjoyed watching people interact with us and the product. Like, it brought a smile to my face. And Matt, it seemed like you were having a good time too.
Absolutely.
So
of course, man. I mean, this has been like 5 years in the making. So
yeah,
if anything, this is kind of like a relief in some capacity, and I considered it a win for me. I mean, it's like winning the battle, but not the war, kind of thing.
And I'll say, I think I can speak for both of us, is that of course we want to make money, but I think more importantly, I really like the idea of having been able to make something and just put it out into the world and have people enjoy it. And, even if we don't end up making that much money from this in the end, if we got our product out there, we got a lot of people using it and enjoying it, and, we're giving people smiles and like having fun, I mean, it's kind of a claim to fame. It's like, I'm glad that we got to like put that in the world and like that people got to enjoy it. So either way, I think it's a win.
So to recap it all, it's all about the journey, not the destination.
Absolutely.
And we're going to end on that, all right?
All right. Thanks, guys.